think makes a self-aware person, and how can someone become more self-aware and therefore a better communicator and a better relationship? Because it's so great to hear those terms, but it's like, well, how do I become more self-aware?
I'd be sending them to you. I'd be sending them to you, mate, to get more self-aware. I can deal with them in terms of helping develop out those competencies. Good question. To become more self-aware, I mean, that's a real journey itself, isn't it? Really, for someone to be able to really look at themselves objectively and look at their own stuff and see how they're behaving and how they're living their lives. I suppose one thing would have a really honest relationship with yourself. So anyone who would be nurturing the relationship would they have with themselves, nurturing their own personal development, and surrounding themselves with people who don't buy into their bullshit and who are really honest with them. And I think I love that quote, and I can't think of who it's by now, that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it's really true, because if you go bike riding with 5 slow people, you slow down. You go bike riding with 5 fast people, you speed up. And when you surround yourself with people who are energizing and inspiring and uplifting, then that's what happens too. And if you surround yourself with people who are honest and true and authentic, and will communicate with you and give you honest feedback, then you're in a great position to be able to really develop yourself and your levels of self-awareness.
I think that is such a good point, that the only way that we can really know ourselves is through feedback, asking for feedback and asking for help. And people that really know and love you, the times where I've grown the most in my life is when somebody's had the courage to call me out. And then the help is, well, okay, a weakness has been identified. How do I work through it? To talk to a mentor or a therapist or a coach or tea leaf reader or whatever floats your boat, a religious leader, but just somebody that can help you, because we're an interdependent society. Where do you see this concept flowing into the workplace, as asking for feedback, asking for help?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking before about the progressive organisations. Progressive organisations look to develop a culture of feedback. And if you do any kind of half-decent 101 basic management or basic leadership, it'll be about the value of providing feedback. So I think there's 2 aspects to it. You'd hope that you're in an organisation where that is an accepted way of being. And if not, then what can you do to promote that? And secondly would be to ask for feedback, to really say, and I suppose that also leads to managing up as well. So whatever role you're in.
What does that mean, managing up?
It means getting what you need from your manager, obviously in a respectful way as well. So whether it's driving a project or just getting from them what you need from them to develop yourself professionally. So you might have a leader, for example, who is really disorganized, but you really struggle working that way. So, it's the responsibility then is on you to have a meeting with them and say, how do you like to work? Because how I really like to work is this structure, and I really need that to be effective. I understand you have a different working style. How can we find a way that we can be really work together successfully? How about I put the meetings in our diary for the next month to make sure we have those structured catch-ups? I'll send you a prospective agenda and you just add to it. So that way you're being respectful, but you're taking the lead to get what you need to get out of that relationship.
Oh, I really love that. And it brings up that point of so many experiences. People often love their actual job and role, but the boss makes it almost impossible. How do you, whether it's a boss or a bullying or just annoying colleague, how do you deal with difficult people if you really don't want to leave your job?
Yeah, that's a tricky question, and but a really pertinent one, because the thing that makes people the stickiest or not stickiest in their job is their one-up leader. So if they've got a good relationship with that person, then they're likely to stay. If they don't, then they're out the door. That person has so much of an impact on you. And if you think about how many hours you spend with these people, it's often more time than your partner or your spouse or any of your friends. So I think the thing to do with difficult leaders and also with difficult colleagues is have the courage to have the honest conversation to get your needs met. It's obviously around listening to that person, so not jumping to, first finding the space and the time. So finding time, when are they available to meet with you? That's a good time for them. Not running up to the desk or catching them on the way out of the office, but talking to them and respecting their time and saying, when can we meet to discuss this? This is what I really like to discuss with you. And then talking honest, listening to them first. So not making any assumptions saying, oh, they don't believe in you, so that's why they're always squashing your ideas. Asking them, okay, well, it seems like, you know, you gave me this feedback on this project, or you weren't happy with this. And asking them, you know, where they're coming from, why that is, and listening to them before you come in with any of your own kind of assumptions on how things are working, and then asking for your needs to be met, whether it's, you know, more structure, less feedback delivered in a different manner. You know, I think it's just really pertinent to have the conversation, to listen to the other person's perspective, and ask to have your needs met.
Oh, that is such good advice. So mature, so classy and dignified, and I believe that
from mistakes that I've made earlier in my career.
Of course, and like I said, learning through mistakes is the best way. But I mean, if only we approached every area of our life with that wisdom and dignity and maturity, we'd have completely different cultures, both at work and at home.
And that's where emotional intelligence comes in. Actually, I didn't mention that before. I mean, that's the thing that employers are looking for. IQ isn't actually an indicator of success in the majority of roles. And it's the emotional intelligence is really what you need to be developing if you want to be successful and happier.
And what does that mean for you? What's emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence for me is, well, firstly, it's that self-awareness that we discussed. So really understanding. It's also the relationship skills. So understanding yourself, what your triggers are, what makes you happy, what doesn't make you happy. Understanding others, so being able to tune in, to your point before, tune into others and what's going on with them, so you can approach people in the right way and support them as well. It's about self-regulation, so even if someone really pisses you off, you don't fly off the handle. So it's the ability to sit back and go, okay, they said something that is not very helpful. Let me sit on that rather than bashing out an emotional response email.
But why would that be bad if you're right, if absolutely you feel vilified by their behaviour, why can't we fly off the handle sometimes?
I think
we're entitled to.
It's more about responding, not reacting. Because when you react, you're coming from an emotional standpoint. It's like, you upset me, rah. And you're just going to get the other person offside, so you're not going to actually get to the outcome that you wanted. You can do it, and you can fly off the handle, and maybe you'll feel good temporarily because you blew off some steam. But if you're looking to build a relationship with them, it's like the old saying, you know, would you rather be right, you know, or would you, rather actually do something more effectively? So in this particular instance, it's about taking the time to make sure that you respond to them, don't just come purely out of emotion, so that ultimately you can get what you really want. So you can still tell people that they've really upset you and that their behaviour is completely unjustified, but I think it's just doing it in a more pragmatic way.
And coming back to that empathy, really understanding. Did I misunderstand? Did their cat just die? I mean, there's always a reason why. To know all is to forgive all.